Welcome to the Deep Dive, your essential guide to making sense of a world that, well, never stops changing. We're here to cut through the noise.
Yep. Cut through it and deliver the most impactful insights from the sources you've given us.
Exactly. And today we're navigating a landscape of really rapid, interconnected change. We're pulling from a very diverse stack of sources.
Oh, yeah. Quite a mix.
Everything from global development institutions, think World Bank, Council on Foreign Relations, to leading financial and crypto analysts, Bloomberg, NEF, CoinDesk, Glassnode, and policy research from Brookings, too.
It's quite the spread.
It is. We've got a lot to get through, so okay, let's unpack this.
And our mission for this deep dive is, well, exactly that, to distill crucial, actionable insights from all these different perspectives.
Right.
We're going to try and reveal how topics that seem pretty separate, global public health, economic policy, digital assets, are actually fundamentally intertwined. The goal is to give you those aha moments, really help you gain knowledge quickly, thoroughly, but without feeling totally overwhelmed by just the sheer volume of info out there.
Okay, let's kick things off then. There's a stark and pretty recent reminder of just how fragile public health can be. The Council on Foreign Relations highlighted this.
Yeah, I saw that.
The tragic death of an unvaccinated child from measles in West Texas. And this isn't just heartbreaking, it's significant because it's the first U.S. measles death in 10 years.
10 years, wow.
Yeah. And there's a growing outbreak. 124 cases in Texas, mostly West Texas, 9 in neighboring New Mexico. And get this, 80% of these cases are children.
80%.
So this isn't just some tragic, isolated thing. Tell us about the bigger shifts happening in public health. How does it connect to these, deeper system vulnerability?
Indeed. And what makes this especially concerning is the history, right? Measles was officially eliminated in the U.S. back in 2000.
Eliminated, yeah.
Which was a real testament to decades of vaccination work. But the Council on Foreign Relations reveals a pretty alarming statistic now. 31 out of 49 reporting states are actually below the 93% MMR vaccine coverage threshold.
31 states. Below the threshold needed for population immunity.
That's right, needed for population immunity. So it's not just a number. It implies nearly two-thirds of U.S. states are operating below that critical herd immunity level.
Which creates these pockets of vulnerability.
Precisely. Pockets that could basically undo decades of progress. And if you connect that to the bigger picture, we risk losing ground against communicable diseases.
Allowing them to resurface.
Yeah, letting them come back and critically diverting already scarce resources away from fighting non-communicable diseases, things like heart disease, cancer.
Which are already huge killers.
Exactly. The World Bank says they account for 70% of global deaths already. So you divert resources, and that problem gets worse too.
And we've seen shifts happening at the federal level, haven't we? Things that contribute directly to this sort of weakening foundation.
Yeah, the CFR sources point to that.
Like the executive order restricting federal funding for COVID-19 vaccination mandates. The CDC has also been, well, the report called them relatively quiet on vaccination issues. And important advisory committees, like the National Vaccine Advisory Committee, the Advisory Commission on Childhood Vaccination, their meetings have been postponed.
Right.
These actions, they seem to chip away at the very systems meant to prevent exactly the kind of outbreak we're seeing in Texas.
They certainly have a compounding effect, don't they? Diminishing support, both public and institutional, for vaccination right across the board. And what's more, the Council on Foreign Relations notes a really concerning detail.
What's that?
An estimated 1,200 NIH employees let go, many were promising young investigators, and 750 CDC staff out of 1,100 total reductions.
Wow. That's a massive loss of expertise.
It's a significant loss of specialized knowledge, yeah, and institutional memory, too.
So if we're losing that much knowledge, that much memory, what are the long-term consequences? For our ability to detect and respond to new health threats, not just the ones we know.
Oh.
It feels like we're sort of intentionally creating blind spots.
That's precisely the risk. That's exactly it. It creates these critical blind spots for spotting emerging health threats. Makes us more vulnerable.
Right.
And this, domestic weakening of public health support, it doesn't happen in a vacuum. The ripples go global.
Yeah, the international picture looks concerning, too.
It does.
We saw the U.S. withdrawal from the World Health Organization and the termination of, 5,800 out of 6,200 U.S. side contracts.
Yeah, a huge cut.
with an expected workforce drop from 10,000 down to 1,000. I mean, these aren't just budget adjustments, are they? It feels like a strategic retreat from global health leadership creates a vacuum.
Definitely. What does that really mean for international cooperation when the next crisis hits?
Well, the global consequences are profound. This diminution of international information, as CFR puts it, caused by, reducing the reach of the world's main health agency.
It directly compromises global surveillance,
Makes sense.
which in turn just increases the risk of unchecked outbreaks. Think Ebola, hantavirus, things like that.
And other countries might follow?
Well, what's striking here is that possibility. Yeah. Argentina has already withdrawn from the WHO. Hungary and Russia are reportedly considering it.
So the whole framework could shift.
It could. And while, China might step in to fill some voids in strategic regions, their focus tends to be more infrastructure, less global health security, or infectious disease programs.
And the UK.
We see the UK, for instance, shifting foreign aid towards military investment. So yes, the global health framework is being fundamentally reshaped right now.
Okay, let's bring this back down to the local level for a second.
Right.
The Council on Foreign Relations also highlighted Connecticut's experience. That was a really tangible example of these immediate impacts.
Yeah, that was interesting.
They described that initial uncertainty, remember? When those cease orders hit 154 federal grants, affected like half the state's public health department.
Right, imagine the chaos.
Thankfully, critical communications like the Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report, the MMWR, eventually resumed. And they could still get emergency input from the CDC.
Yeah, but even with those things back online, states still emphasize how much they rely on federal partners for expertise. It's not just about the money.
Right.
Take, for example, the cancellation, hopefully just a postponement of that federal committee, the VRV pack.
The one that picks the flu strains.
Exactly. That's responsible for flea vaccine strain selection.
Oh,
That's critical if you want timely vaccine manufacturing each year.
absolutely.
And, local public health departments, they do so much foundational work. Safe drinking water, food safety.
Yeah.
We're seeing an ongoing Listeria outbreak right now, highlights the need for rigorous testing.
So the local level is crucial, but relies on the bigger system.
Totally. And look, while vaccine uptake in Connecticut's actually pretty good, 97.7% for MMR in 2024, that's up from pre-pandemic levels.
That's positive.
It is. It shows local efforts matter. But these under-vaccinated pockets, they remain a concern nationwide. The whole system relies on every single link in the chain. Global surveillance, federal expertise, local testing, all of it.
Okay, so connecting the dots here. What does all this mean for the broader global economy? The link between public health challenges and economic stability seems undeniable. Health and business really do go hand in hand, don't they?
Absolutely. You can't separate them.
So to really understand the global economy's size and, poverty levels, we need tools like the World Bank's International Comparison Program, the ICP, and Purchasing Power Parities, PPPs.
Right. Those are crucial metrics. And the World Bank blogs give us some specific real-world examples of how they're used.
How so?
Well, ICP data helps track progress on the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs. And PPPs are used to update the global poverty lines. That directly impacts how we understand global inequality.
Gives us a clearer picture.
Exactly. For instance, one blog from October 2019 pointed out that India's economy, measured in PPP terms, actually surpassed France's 25 years ago.
25 years ago.
Yeah. And another blog that same month highlighted the rapid rise of China and India in tracking GDP. It's not just numbers. It shows this massive rebalancing of global economic power that's been underway.
And it ties back to health, too, right?
Definitely. Remember, we mentioned non-communicable diseases earlier. They now account for 70% of global deaths. That represents a staggering economic burden, impacts productivity, healthcare systems worldwide. It's all connected.
Okay, pivoting a bit now to trade and tariffs. That's been a real hot-button topic lately.
Well, at least seems to be.
U.S. trade policies, specifically those Section 232 tariffs, they've had a big impact. And recent federal court rulings have found most of the Trump-era tariffs illegal.
Which just adds more uncertainty for businesses. You
Right.
see that reported by CFR, Daily FX, CBC.
Right. Uncertainty is obviously a downside. But, some argue those tariffs were maybe necessary, maybe to protect domestic industries or achieve some strategic goals. Do the sources touch on that side of it? Or the intended long-term aims, even if the short-term costs were high?
That's a fair question. What's fascinating here is that while the sources you mentioned do focus on the economic fallout and the uncertainty, they also highlight projections that these tensions are likely to escalate. FX Street suggests it could cut global output by maybe 0.7 percentage points in the medium term.
Not insignificant.
No. It suggests the economic costs are pretty substantial. And look, the Federal Reserve itself is doing new research on geopolitical risk and global banking and measuring geopolitical risk exposure across industries.
So policymakers are definitely worried about this link.
Absolutely. It underscores how deeply these geopolitical factors are now tangled up with financial stability. It seems less about whether the tariffs achieve some specific goal and more about the widespread ripple effects across the whole global economy.
Which brings us neatly to the Federal Reserve itself. The U.S. central bank's role in monetary policy, their dual mandate, maximum employment and keeping inflation around 2%.
Right, always that balancing act. And their recent actions reflect that. The FOMC, the Federal Open Market Committee, in their statement from July 30th, 2025.
What did they say?
They noted that economic activity had moderated a bit, unemployment was still low, but inflation remained somewhat elevated.
Somewhat elevated, okay.
So the committee decided to keep the federal funds rate where it was at 4.14 to 4.12%.
But not everyone agreed.
No, and this is interesting. 2 members dissented. They actually wanted a rate reduction.
So there's internal debate?
Exactly. It highlights that ongoing debate. Is inflation truly under control, or does the economy maybe need a bit more stimulus? For anyone listening, navigating investments or business strategy, understanding these kinds of nuanced policy signals is really key for risk assessment.
Okay, let's shift gears again. The energy transition. Bloomberg NEF's reports, especially their electric vehicle outlook, give us some key insights here.
Yeah, BNEF does great work in that space.
They noted, as of August 2025, that power-hungry data centers are driving green energy demand.
That's a huge factor now, isn't it? The energy needs of AI and data.
It seems so.
Yeah.
And global renewable energy investment has kept hitting new records.
And this trend, it connects directly into those broader tech and geopolitical developments we were just talking about. It reveals a really high-stakes competition playing out.
How so?
Well, you're seeing an increasing market for carbon credits emerge. And AI itself is profoundly influencing the U.S.-China competition.
Right, the tech race.
Yeah. Brookings and CFR both highlight concerns that, quote, overly aggressive bans on AI chip exports to China can backfire.
Backfire how?
Well, it could stifle innovation globally, or push China to accelerate its own domestic chip production even faster. It's not just about trade restrictions. It's about this race for technological supremacy and finding that delicate balance between boosting innovation and managing national security.
And that impacts everything from data center energy use to the cost of power.
Exactly. It all loops back.
All right, now let's turn our attention to the digital frontier, the rapidly evolving digital asset space. We're talking Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, the whole crypto market.
A very fast-moving world.
So, okay, let's unpack this a bit. Bitcoin's currently holding around, 110, 111K. XRP consolidating below $3. That's according to CoinDesk, Cointelegraph. What are the emerging trends here that are fundamentally changing how people are interacting with these assets?
Well, what's fascinating here, I think, is the rise of tokenized stocks.
Tokenized stocks, explain that.
So firms like Kraken and Bakkt are bringing tokenized equities offerings to Ethereum mainnet. They've got 60 tokenized stocks, including big names like NVIDIA, Tesla.
So digital versions of real stocks on the blockchain.
Essentially, yeah. Digital representations of real-world assets. It potentially offers things like fractional ownership, maybe greater accessibility to traditional markets.
Interesting.
But risky.
Well, simultaneously, you have the EU markets watchdog, ESMA, expressing caution. Cointelegraph reported their warning about potential investor misunderstanding.
Yeah, I can see that.
So it highlights that crucial need for careful navigation. It's innovative, yes, but complex. Investor protection, regulatory clarity, those are big issues here.
And speaking of complexity and maybe risk, there's that recent high-profile, pretty controversial case, the WLFI token, tied to a Trump project.
Ah, yes, that made headlines.
Its debut was apparently very volatile. There are token-burning plans now. And CoinDesk and Cointelegraph reported a prevalence of related scams popping up around it.
Not surprising in that kind of hype cycle. And then there was the news about the Trump family's World Liberty stake surging to $5 billion after a token unlock. That kind of volatility, the scams, it must make it incredibly hard for regular investors to navigate this space safely.
Oh, absolutely. That market's volatility and the clear potential for manipulation, it just underscores how critical specialized data and analytics are.
You need the right tools.
You really do. What's truly invaluable here is how platforms like Santiment, CryptoQuant, Glassnode, they provide on-chain actionable insights. They use social data, blockchain data, financial metrics, development activity.
Try to look under the hood.
Exactly. Glassnode, for instance, uses these proprietary algorithms, entity adjustment and clustering algorithms, to give you a multi-layered view. Meaning they can help distinguish between, say, big institutional players moving money versus smaller retail investors reacting to news. It gives you a clearer, hopefully more accurate picture of where significant capital is really flowing, what market sentiment genuinely is.
Not just the noise.
Right. And CryptoQuant offers low-latency proprietary data metrics, basically, really fast data, crucial for markets that trade 24/7. Without these kinds of tools, you're essentially flying blind in a very, very dynamic environment.
And when we look at the global regulatory picture, Cointelegraph had that observation. While the West regulates crypto and AI, Singapore innovates. Seems like quite different approaches regionally.
Exactly right. And this divergence leads to some fascinating practical applications and challenges emerging globally.
Like what?
Well, for example, crypto is actually starting to enter retirement systems in places like Australia, specifically for their self-managed superannuation funds, SMSFs. And discussions are happening in the U.S. too about its role in broader financial planning.
So it's moving beyond just trading.
Definitely. And beyond its currency too. People are using AI tools, ChatGPT, Grok, trying to predict altcoin pumps or gauge market sentiment. And other Web3 innovations are pushing boundaries.
Betcha.
Crypto-powered phones. Even collaborations like Avalanche and Toyota working on infrastructure for autonomous robotaxis.
Wow. Robotaxis using crypto infrastructure.
That's the idea being explored. So these aren't just theories anymore. They're real-world applications, really pushing the edges of tech and regulation.
Okay. Well, our deep dive today has really, I think, reinforced just how profoundly interconnected everything is. Public health, global economic policy, this rapidly evolving digital asset landscape.
It's all tangled together.
It is. It's clear the world we live in is constantly being reshaped by data, by policy choices, by technological leaps, and they all influence each other in complex, often pretty surprising ways.
Yeah.
Understanding these connections, it's not really optional anymore, is it? It feels fundamental.
It really does. And maybe if we connect all this back to the bigger picture, think about it. We're in an era where vital public data systems face these unprecedented challenges, a lot of skepticism.
Right. Trust in data itself is shaky.
Exactly, where information itself can be manipulated or just dismissed. And these new digital frontiers are emerging way faster than traditional governance can even hope to adapt.
So what's the takeaway for the listener?
Well, the question becomes, what heightened responsibility then falls on you, the informed individual? Responsibility to diligently seek out reliable sources, to really question assumptions, and to actively advocate for the knowledge that genuinely contributes to our collective well-being, our collective future.
That is a powerful and, I think, essential thought to leave everyone with. Thank you for joining us on the Deep Dive today. We really encourage you to continue your own deep dives, engage critically with information, and keep exploring the complex interceptions we've discussed. Until next time, stay curious.